Alright, so come and stand in the middle of your mat. Perhaps a little wiggle on the toes just to wake the feet up a little bit. Maybe pressing them into the mat. If you've got one of these squeegee mats, you can sort of have a real kind of massage for the feet, bit of a wiggle. Soften the knees, tuck the pelvis under. Find the pelvic floor, find the TVA pulling in. Just take the shoulders down and back length at the back of the neck, crown of the head up to the ceiling. And it's been 2 weeks for me. I haven't done any Pilates for 2 weeks, so even just coming in this position, I'm like, whoo, here we go, landing. So I'm going to do this thing with your fingers whilst we do our pelvic floor engagements. So take your index finger and your thumb. So it's going to look like this. And the trick is with this is to see if you can straighten the other fingers. So sometimes it's quite tricky to actually straighten the other fingers as we go. Okay, so pulling in pelvic floor, and we're going to go 5 seconds, and pulling in TVA, big squeeze at 100%. So we're going to go, and I'll show you close up, 5, then I'm going to change, 4, and then 3, and then 2, and then the last one is a split. How tricky is that, okay? And then release, okay? So we're thinking core, but we're doing these funny things with our fingers. So going again. 5, pulling in. 4, straighten the other fingers. 3, keep pulling in the core. And 2, I find that one really tricky. And last one, the split in the middle. Okay? You got that with the fingers? We're going to go 2 more times. Slow release the core. And again, pelvic floor TVA. Index finger to begin with. Other finger straight. 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. Go through the fingers. And the last one with the split. And then take a slow release. One more time. Pelvic floor TVA. Tuck the pelvis under. Index fingers. 5 and 4. Really work at straightening through those other fingers. And 3 and 2. Shoulders relax it down and back. And last one with the split. And just taking a slow release. Then go to 50%. So pelvic floor's engaged, TVA's engaged. A little bit of a shake there on the fingers. That's quite a nice exercise, that one, to work some of your energy channel lines, okay? And then interlink the fingers and just go for the wrists. So we're going to start from the fingers and we're going to go up. And then you can bring in the elbows with that one as well. A little bit of a figure of 8. Still working with your 50%, pelvic floor engaged, TVA pulled in. So then just with the shoulders, just take some big circles, lift them up to the ears, circle them down and around. Notice as you lift your shoulders, you're still pulling in TVA. Adding in arms, lifting up and circling around. We're breathing in as we lift, breathing out to come down. And again, noticing that you're tucking the pelvis under, pulling in TVA as the arms go up over the head. Adding it into the balance, you could just take up those heels up onto the toes and then gently bringing the heels down. Breathing in to lift, breathing out to come down. You can take some nice deep breaths here. We start landing on the mat. So we're going to combine these with our squats. So circling around and then hips back into space, bend the knees, lowering down, and then you can come back up into your full body stretch, lowering down. And you can start thinking, I'm doing an extra little swing there of the arms, up to you. You can just let it flow. So I do a little woof, almost like I'm diving into the swimming pool. Think about when you're coming down, the arches aren't dropping between the feet, under the feet. The knees aren't pronating in. Shoulders should be kind of coming down over the knees. Just finding your own sort of sense of flow from the full body stretch down into the squat. The squat's a really nice low back release. Try not to hold the breath at any point. Taking that balance as well up onto the toes. 2 more. Squeezing the glutes as you lift. Heels down, just roll the shoulders down the back, elbows tucked into your sides, and it's breathing out. Take the thumbs to the back of the room. Breathing in, recenter. It's the scapular set. Notice if you've arched in the lower back, so just tuck the pelvis under. Find the pelvic floor again. Find the TVA. And just see where we're at with the shoulders, with the chest. 2 more. Length at the back of the neck. It's hard because you might want to look down at the screen. But see if you can just take your eyes down to the screen, not the whole head. Crown of the head up to the ceiling. So arms facing forwards. We're going to go for our bow and arrow. So flexing one of the elbows. And then just slightly looking behind. This is a chest stretch. And then coming back to center. Bow and arrow. Looking behind. Back to center. And now for this, if you take a fist position as well. So you get that little bit of tension coming through the arms and the biceps. Taking like a bit of a gentle twist there across the rib cage. Then we're going to use this a little bit later on as well. So if you want to, opening out and then stretching out through the fingers and then recentering. So if it feels good, you want to open out, opening those fingers, recentering. Keep the knees soft. Feet parallel, facing forwards. Notice if they've turned out at any point. Still connecting with the pelvic floor and the TVA. So try and keep the hips facing your forwards. So try not to let the hips move with this because we really want to work with the chest. And also a little bit on the upper back. Whereas if the hips do all the moving, then you're not really going to get that twist in the upper body. 2 more. Opening out if it feels good. Coming back to center, we're going to go side bend. So just reach the hand down to the side of the knee and then recenter. Breathing out to reach down. And again, see how it feels like if you want to work a little bit more in the neck, you could slowly allow the head to kind of go a little bit farther down, almost like the ear is reaching down to the shoulder. So just again, if that feels like a comfortable position, go for that. Try and keep your hips still, your feet kind of melting into the mat with this. So there's that nice element of grounding from the hips down. If you want to add in, just start lifting the arm up and over. Like you're just going to paint the ceiling in some crazy stripes. Breathing out as we go over, breathing in, recenter. So option we can add into this is you just literally go to your full body stretch and then recenter and then take that over. And again, just go with that if it feels comfortable. It is quite intense, so if it feels like too much for you today, just ease off. Go back to that other layer. Really thinking about the core, thinking about the grounding through the feet, so those feet melting into the mat, hips staying still. You do need to get that engagement there with the pelvic floor and the TVA. 3 more. Try and breathe out as you go over. Last one. Recentering, and we're just going to go for a really super slow roll down. So chin to chest, slide the hands down the knees, a little bit of softening in the knees. Maybe keep the knees bent if you're going to go down towards the floor, and then slowly curl. You're thinking here about that lower back release. As you come up, maybe turn the palms forwards, open the chest, looking up, a little bit of a squeeze on the shoulder blades. Then again, chin to chest. Still thinking about pelvic floor and TVA. We're coming all the way down, brushing the fingertips, and slowly curling. Baby back bends there if you choose. One more on this one, if you want to as well, you could just take a little half lift. So when you're down at the bottom, Begin to straighten the legs. Place your hands on your shins, looking down. Crown of the head shines forwards. Lift up the chest and squeeze the shoulder blades. So it's like this flat back position. And then you can slowly uncurl. And then vertebrae by vertebrae, coming back up to that standing position. Okay, so we're going to go to a balance. So transfer the weight into one foot, close your eyes, and count to 10. Yeah, I've got my hands on my hips, I don't know. However's comfortable, wherever you want them to be. You want to use your mudras. Counting to 10, close your eyes. Once you've done your 10 seconds, we're going to go into those heel lifts. So just lifting up the heel and lowering down. Quite small, not big lifts. Thinking about going over towards the big toe and that big ball of your foot. Woo. So again, just working with balance, finding kind of this inner type focus with this. Open your eyes now, but notice if you're holding tension anywhere with this, okay? So shoulders relaxed, jaw relaxed. Maybe squeezing glutes. We're thinking about those connections from the feet, the pelvic floor, the glutes. TVA gets a little bit of a squeeze and pull in. Just 10 lifts, I think I got a couple more. I'm afraid I haven't got any better at counting this month. And then we go to the other side. So switch the weight over, close your eyes, count to 10. Just find that inner balance. Pull in the core muscles, shoulders relaxed. Then when you're ready, open your eyes. It's 10 heel lifts. Just small lifts. If you need to hold on to anything, that's totally fine. Feel that little bit of engagement in the calf muscle. Really focus about the glutes, getting a little bit of engagement there. So we get those connections working. Pelvic floor TVA pulled in. Notice as well if you're holding your breath. If you notice you're holding your breath, just exhale. Three more. Woo. And then one more balance. So transfer the weight over. We're going to go for our tree pose. So we're just going to go for a couple of little hip openers. So just gently take the knee and just twisting it to the side. You don't have to go all the way around, just to your normal range. We're not forcing this. And then we're going to just place the foot on the inside of the calf. I mean, if you're super flexible, you do lots of yoga, you can bring it right up and put it in here. But just be careful because we're warming up and it's a bit of a hip move. Okay, so we're going to bring palms together. So this is going to progress it, otherwise hands on hips. Palms together and just start pressing palms together. So it's that idea of connecting left and right sides of the brain. So again, go to some pressure, a bit like when we do the mudras at the beginning with the index finger and the thumb. Actually really push these palms together. Shoulders down and back, crown of the head shines up to the ceiling. Keep working on this balance, so keep pulling in pelvic floor. Keep connecting down to the mat. If you want a challenge, then just begin to lift these hands up over the head. So it's like this tree growing tall. And if you want a little bit more, begin to take the eye gaze up as well. And that's when you get the real challenge. Is when you change the eye gaze. And then you can just gently, slowly bring that back down to heart center. And we're going to swap sides. So again, we just do a couple of the warm-ups. And you could do this just with the big toe on the mat, or you can take the foot a little bit higher onto the ankle just to warm up into the hip. And then when you're ready, just find the spot, place the sole of the foot either on the calf muscle, possibly not on the inside of the knees, not recommended, or you could go a bit higher. Find your balance, scrunch the toes, palms together, and begin pressing palms together. So if you can get your shoulders down and back. And then just taking some nice deep breaths. Squeezing glutes, pulling in pelvic floor. Then if you feel ready and you want to progress, you could just take the arms up over the head nice and slowly, like that tree growing really tall. If you want the challenge, take the eye gaze up with the hands. Keep coming back to those roots, that pelvic floor, those glutes, and then gently bringing that all the way back down to heart center. And then we will release and press a little bit of a shake from the legs. So let's meet down with a downward dog to stretch out the backs of the legs. So get yourself down to the mat. I'll adjust my camera. It's upside down V shape or mountain shapes. Downward dogs. Hips going up to the ceilings. Bending knees. If you're a little bit tight, just bend those knees and send those hips up. Or maybe you want to walk through your dog to take a stretch on the calf muscles and the hamstrings. Think about spreading those fingers, pushing the palms down into the mat, and then the head in between the arms, the ears around the arms around the ears. Spiraling the biceps towards each other, sending the chest towards the thighs. And from here you could go up onto the toes. So going up onto both toes and then gently, gently, gently pressing the heels down. So it's like a really slow way into a calf stretch. Up onto the toes. And then just really slowly heels melting down into the mat. All the time, hips sending up towards the ceiling. One more time, up onto the toes. Send the hips up super high. And then gently pressing them down. Bending the knees a little bit and just step the left foot forwards, high lunge. Bring yourself up. And then we're going to go to, I'm just going to lower down so you can see me, but try and straighten your back leg. We're going to go to what we did a bit earlier is the bow and arrow. So just picking one elbow, flex, then recenter, and then go to the other side. Bow and arrow. Then when you've got the opposite hand to the opposite leg forward, you could go for your opening. If that felt like you did that earlier, you want to try it in a balance. Or when you've got the opposite hand, I mean you can do it the other side too, but just be careful of the hip. You want to keep the hips square to the front of the mat. So just taking the bow and arrow in that balanced position. Hip flexor, stretch. Last one. So send that left foot back. One more time in downward dog. Perhaps walking through, or if you want to go again up onto the toes, lift and then push the heels down. Then step the right foot through, exactly the same thing. High lunge, find your hip flexor stretch, straighten that back leg. Bring the arms forwards, and again going to this bow and arrow, keeping the hips square to the front of the mat. So don't let the hips wiggle or twist. If you want, opening out when you've got the opposite hand to the opposite leg forwards. Because if you just do it on the other side, it tends to just twist and pull the hip round. So working into the chest as we're taking this big high lunge balance. One more. Breathing out. Bring yourself down. Hips back up. Last time in downward dog. Spread the fingers. Maybe you feel a little bit looser there. Up onto the toes. Last time. Heels all the way down. Get that stretch. Last time stretching on the backs of the legs. And then bring yourself down onto all fours. Hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Take a moment here, a couple of deep breaths. We've done this before. Breathe into all four corners of the torso. So breathing in, kind of send it right up to the shoulders. Widen the rib cage. So we're focusing more on chest breathing here instead of the kind of belly breathing, right? Really kind of thinking about broadening those collarbones right to the shoulders. Just one more. Breathing to the four corners. Just check you're in neutral spine, and with that, pull in pelvic floor, pull in TVA. So your back should be this nice table shape. Crown of the head in line with the spine. Straighten left leg. Right arm extend to a low handshake. We're going to breathe out, lift, squeeze that left glute. Then we're going to go to corners. We're going to do a combo here. Then take it out to the corners of your mat. Then recenter, bending in the knee. Squeeze the glutes, try and keep the hips nice and still. Then lengthening out, and then see if you can pick up the other foot to a balance. Focus on the front of the mat, and then lowering down. Other side. Low handshake, straighten opposite leg, squeezing in that glute neutral spine. Take it to the corners. Try and keep that leg up level with the hip, recenter. Bending at the knee. Should feel a little bit of a stretch there on the quads. And then lengthening back out. See if you can lift up that other foot to bring in the balance. Eye gaze to the front of the mat. And then release. How is that feeling? Should we go another time all the way through? Yeah, okay, other side. Extend. Take your corners. Bring the arm to the side there as well. Recenter. Bending in the knee. Lengthen. Put your balance in there. Squeeze glutes. Pull in TVA and release. Other side. And extend. Squeezing in those glutes, take the corners. Try to hold the breath. Re-center, bending in the knee. And lengthening nice and slowly, and then balance. Take a breath. And release. One more time each way. This time is going to be a little bit faster. So extend, lift. Corners. Re-center, bending in the knee. And extend. Balance. Woo. And release. Last time. Extend and lift. Squeezing glutes. Corners. Recenter. Bending in the knee. Lengthen. Take a balance. Pull in the core. And release. Nice. Good job. Let's bring it all the way down then. And we're going to go forehead on the mat, arms down by our sides. Palms up. And breathing out, lift head and shoulders, turn the palms around, squeeze the shoulder blades together, and then lower it down. 3 more just like that. Breathing out, lift, twisting in the wrist, get that squeeze on the shoulders, and lowering down. Don't forget the connection here with the pelvic floor. So keeping that pelvic floor slightly engaged with this one. If you can, a little bit of work on the TVA. Feet relaxed. So progressing from that one, because you might want to just stick with the first layer, up to you. Place your hands just where your eyebrows are. Then it's breathing out left, breathing in lower. And you're going to feel like you need to pull in your core a little bit more now. So pelvic floor, TVA drawing in and lower. And maybe you don't get so high, because obviously we've got a little bit more to lift. One more. Breathing out left. Breathing in lower. Then cactus out your arms. So we go to our swan dive. And then it's breathing out lift. And it should feel like an in-between of those two moves. That's how it should feel. Not as hard as when you've got your hands as your eyebrows. But not as easy as when you've got your arms down by your sides. Breathing out left. Keep the connection there with the pelvic floor. Breathing in lower. And try and keep that crown of the head in line with the spine. Progressing, if you choose, you're adding the extension. Breathing out, left, breathe in, then breathing out, reaching forwards. Come back to that cactus with another breath, and then lower it down. Keeping that chin slightly tucked in, so we don't really lift our head on this one. Keep looking down, try and use the top of the spine. 2 more. Last one. From there, then push yourself up. We'll release with a cat stretch. So top of the back up to the ceiling on all fours. Chin into chest. And really tuck in the abdomen here. Tuck the pelvis under. And when you're thinking about the breath, you can really send the breath to the shoulders, to the top 2 corners. Try and breathe in completely, so some really nice deep in breaths. Filling out the top of the back. 1 more. So from there we'll come to our front plank. So come lower, come down lower, and elbows underneath your shoulders. Pelvic floor in TVA and lifting up the hips and hovering off the mat. And just notice your knees. So knees hip width. So try not to have your knees too close together because it's not needed. It's quite difficult with your knees really close. So option if you want to make that a little bit more challenging, straighten the legs. And then push back through the heels, tuck the pelvis under and really work on TVA. So where that tummy button sits, really suck and pull that up. So a little option if you want to do anything else, we could lift up into a full plank. So it's a little bit of upper body strength. And then lowering ourselves down. It's quite a nice shoulder stability, move that too. So lift and then lower. And we keep working. Otherwise you're on holding, working with TVA. Try not to hold the breath. And we're lifting and we're lowering. And just notice if you're always lifting with the same side first, the same hand, just see if you can switch that over. 4 left. Otherwise keep holding, keep breathing. 3 more breaths. Keep pulling in on TVA. Last one. Lowering down, have a little rest. And then we'll do a different one for the next one. This is where you wish you didn't have the heating on. Okay. Ready, this one's going to be moving with the legs. So pelvic floor in TVA and lifting up the hips. So option is going to be straightening one leg and just sort of a little kind of glute squeeze and straighten. So then you can do that with straight legs. So it's just a little lift and a lower and a lift and a lower. Now you could do that in a high plank too. So it's lift and then it's lower. And if you're in a high plank, maybe go to point the toes. In fact, actually you can do that in your low plank. So just lift, point the toes, and then lower. Lift, point the toes, and lower. Notice now if you're holding your breath, so just try and let it flow, breathing out. Shoulders down away from ears. Pelvic floor pulling in, TVA pulling in. 10 more. Leg lifts. Or breaths. 8. Keep working with that TVA. 6 to go. Keep breathing out. 4. Last little bit. And 2. And 1, just lower yourself all the way down. And actually we'll release now with a child's pose to sit back towards your heels. Perhaps a little wiggle here side to side with the hips. So if you're not comfortable in child's pose, you could try puppy dog, which is where you have your hips kind of over the top of your knees. Otherwise, find yourself child's pose. See if you can get your forehead down onto the mat. And coming back to the finger stuff that we did in the beginning, so index finger together, thumbs together to make like a diamond. And then place that diamond just in front of you on the mat, forehead down. And then you can really think about those spinal breaths. So start at the bottom of the spine. As you breathe in, just sending it all the way up to the third eye. Four more deep breaths. So from there we'll go on to our side series. I'm just going to check the time, see how we're doing. Yeah. So sitting up, and we're going to do like a thoracic, which is like this top area here, release. So a bit of an M shape with your knees. And then the side that's not got your foot sticking out, hand down, other hand up to the ceiling, breathing in. Breathing out, threading the hand through. Try not to touch the mat with that hand. And then breathing in left. And I'm not going to progress this one because I just think that doing it just like this in that seated position gets this really good rotation around the rib cage. You can think about the elbow dropping in, the shoulder dropping, almost like you're looking through underneath the arm. And don't forget the core with this one, so don't forget the pelvic floor, don't forget that TVA. Thinking about pulling tummy button back to spine. Breathing in left, last one. Breathing out for your twist. From there, we're going to come down, clams. So bend the knees, heels up level with your hips in line with your shoulders. Lift top knee and lower. Take the connection there with the pelvic floor TVA. Sometimes we go on the side, we just lose it. So just get that little extra little tuck in. Shoulders relaxed. Maybe hand on hip so you can notice if your hips opening, so like a tree pose. We don't want it to, for this one's the glute med, so try not to let the hip open. Maybe that means don't lift your knee up so high. Three more, breathing out, lift, breathing in lower. Notice what's happening with the feet, a little bit of tension in the feet. Try not to let the arches just draw up around each other. Last one, straightening out the legs for a double leg lift. Lift the top leg, lift the bottom leg, lift the rib cage so we're taking a balance. Arm up and over, reach that arm up to the ceiling, big stretch, and releasing it back down. And we go again, lift, lift, rib cage so we're on a balance. Arm up and over, reach, 2 more, lift, lift, balance, reaching that arm, and release, last one, lift, lift, rib cage, and reach, quite a nice little chest stretch in there, and release. So we're going to revisit this tree pose. So Option 1 is to do it lying down, so you can take that foot and take it to the inside. Then just see if you can lift the bottom leg. So that's your first option. The top option here is going to be to go to a side plank. So it's going to be balance work and then find your tree pose. So 2 options, and we're going to just hold for 10 seconds. 10, 9. So if you're lying down, lifting up that bottom leg. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing that back down. Quite a nice little variation to put 3 on the side. Working again with balance. Other side, starting with the twist. So focusing a little bit on chest today. Really push down with this hand, ready for your twist. Breathing in, lift. Breathing up, push down into the mat. So you can really press yourself and push yourself into a twist. Breathing in, lift. 4 more. Find the connection there with pelvic floor and TVA. Looking up, so it's kind of working with the neck here as well, and then looking down and around. So follow this whole movement here with your head. 2 more. Good strengthening for the wrist here as well. Last one. Breathing out. Then come down, get yourself comfy on a clam. Bend the knees. My mat seems to move. Heels level with your hips and shoulders. Lift the top knee lower. So this isn't the same as the tree pose. So thinking about that top hip, almost pushing over the top of the bottom hip, almost like you're falling forwards. So it's a different feel to it's not a hip opening, it's more of a targeting glute med around the back of the glutes. Again, noticing the feet. So the glute med is quite important for when we squat. Running downhill, maybe not so much running uphill on a glute med. It's more about controlling the pronation on the knee. Check, you've got that connection with TVA pelvic floor. 4 more, breathing out. Last one. Lengthening out for that double leg lift. Lift the top leg, lift the bottom leg, rib cage. Arm reaching up. So think about this like a bit of a chest stretch. And then releasing back down. 3 more, lifting. Rib cage, balance. And then extend. Think about here the fingertips. Really stretching those fingers, a bit like we did in the beginning moment where I said try and get straight fingers. And again. Rib cage, lift. Check that pelvic floor's pulling in. Last time, lift, lift. Rib cage, pelvic floor, TVA pull in, reach, and releasing it down. Ready for our tree pose balance. So either foot kind of on the calf muscle if you want a bit further in. Then see if you can just lift up this bottom leg, so it's an inner thigh stretch. Option 2, we're going to go for our 10 seconds hold, is to lift it to that side plank, so it's a little bit harder for your balance. And then bring it up to a tree pose. A little bit of upper body work here too. 10, 9, 8, try not to hold the breath. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And releasing that all the way down. And then come and lie on your back. Check on the time here. Right, yeah, we're good. Okay, ready then? We're going to go for our 5 sets, but I'm going to do a little bit of different stuff on some of them. So, we do our toe taps. So we all know our toe taps here. If you want to have a go, just take a few now. Hands on hips, and see if you can keep your hips still. Pelvic floor in, TVA in. Try and keep the right angles there behind the knee. So I'm watching in my screens and I can see, Mary, you're slightly coming in on your angle. So see if you can keep the right angle there behind the knee. Take your feet just to the end of the mat, tiny bit more. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, then thinking about those hips being still, they're not tilting side to side. Shoulders relax. So that would be your toe taps. We're going to do 4 of them. Then we're going to go into our pulsing. So we'll lift head and shoulders. We're going to pulse the arms up and down like normal. Keep the tummies pulled in still. But we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll switch that over. So it's like a little switch in the air. 1, 2, 3, 4. So maybe have a little practice at that, like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's quite hard as you switch, right? You've got to really think about the hips being still as you pulse. It's a little bit tricky. 2, 3. So have a little practice on that one. A little bit of a switch, and you'll notice there's like the lower back wants to move. So have a little work at controlling that. And then we're going to go into our lifting up towards the knees. So slow lifting up. And then I want to see if you can find maybe like 5 millimeters, like tiny, maybe 1 centimeter. 1 centimeter more. And I want you to not find that from your neck or your shoulders. I want you to find that from your, what we call rectus abdominis, so from the rib cage, just below the rib cage, down to your hips. That's the little bit I want you to find. Then we'll hold and then we'll release. Okay, so it's going to be 4 toe taps, and then we're going to pulse with a little switch, and then come up, hold, and I'll say 1 centimeter more, and you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so I'll start with the beginner's layer, and we'll go 5 sets. Ready then, 4 toe taps, palms up, shoulders relaxed. 4, hips still. 3, right ankles behind the knees. 2, and 1. Ready to lift and pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hands up towards the knees. 1 centimeter more for a squeeze. Hold. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. 1 set down. Ready to go again? I'll go up a layer if you want to take that with me. Imprinting lower back down. 4 toe taps. 4, 3, and 2, and 1. Lift and pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Straightening legs. Reach. 1 centimeter more. Hold. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And release. Ready to go. 4 toe taps. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lift and pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift. 1 centimeter more. Hold. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Ready. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift. A little bit more. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Palms up. Shoulders relax. Ready. 4, 3, 2, 1. Pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift. A little bit more. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. Last time. Should feel a little bit of a burning there. Hopefully rectus abdominis. Ready. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift and pulse. 4, 3, 2, 1. Switch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Lift. A little bit more. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Release with a full body stretch. Just asking for that a little bit more. Sometimes you can really feel that from the what we call the rectus abdominis. So it's a little bit higher than the TVA pelvic floor. So this here, point the toes, scrunch up the wrists, push the backs of the knees into the mat, squeeze the glutes, really pull the tummies in, lift the shoulders up to the ears, scrunch up your face, close your eyes, big deep breath in, breathing out, open the eyes, just cactus out the arms, turn the feet to the side, let the hips relax, just let go of some of these muscles. Take a moment of relaxation. Okay, coming back into it then, bending knees, hands on hips for a heel slide. So slide one heel away, bringing it back up. And with the same principles here, imprinting lower back down, pelvic floor engaging, TVA engaging, shoulders relaxed. If you're lifting your chin up to the ceiling, just think about slightly dipping it so you've got the length still there at the back of the neck. Otherwise you can put a pillow there underneath your head. So we can add to this, we're going to go back to those palms together and thinking about shoulders down away from ears, pressing those palms together a bit like I did earlier with you. And then you can bring that across towards the bent knee and then recentering. So lengthening, heel slide, and then bringing it around. It's almost like you're drawing a semicircle as you come around. Bring it all the way around and down. Breathing out. Pressing those palms together. Option here to tabletop it, so imprint lower back down, same movement. Try not to let all the hips wiggle with that one because it gets a bit wobbly when you tabletop it. Thinking about the chin dipping down towards the chest to just protect the neck. Pressing palms together. Breathing out as you lift. 3 left. Try and keep knees there hip width. They kind of want to drift across the midline. The last one. Feet planted down, arms up to the ceiling. Turn the palms to the side. Lift the shoulders up. Keep the back of the head down. Turn the palms so they're facing each other, then press the shoulders down. Shoulder release, lifting them up. And again, we're really working through these fingers, just like we did at the very beginning about straightening fingers. Thinking about like these energy lines all running through the body. Reaching up and then imprinting all the way back down. Start to pull in the core, so pelvic floor engaged, TV engaged, imprint lower back down. Turn the palms to the sides of the ribs and then arms over the head. So if you can just touch your little fingers there on that space above the head. And if you've got the space, circle around the body. I've got the wall, so I'm just going to go straight back and then turn so the palms are facing each other and then come back up to center. If you've got that space, perhaps circling around the body's quite nice. Really nice in the shoulders, the chest. Adding in then, imprinting lower back down, tabletop. Breathing out, extend both legs away for that double leg stretch. Breathing in. And just with this, see if you can just touch your heels. There's almost like a little rock there. And then breathing out, extend. Imprint lower back down. Breathing out to see if you can go for a little bit of a touch on the heels. Again, thinking about that length there at the back of the neck. So chin dipping down towards chest. 3 more. Keep thinking about your imprint. Keep thinking about the pelvic floor and the TVA engaging. Nice long exhales. Placing the feet down on the mat and arms out to the sides. It's the spine twist. So breathing out, let both knees drop across to one side. And then breathing and recentering over to the other side. And go really slowly on this. So really melt the shoulders down into the mat. Feel it kind of in the chest here, this lovely stretch. And you can look in the other direction for the neck release. And maybe you just want to stick with staying on one side for a couple of breaths. Other option, tabletop imprint. Work into your corners, straightening those legs. There's a little bit more hamstring work, IT band. So whichever suits you, maybe you think, oh, I just want to have a go at lengthening in my lower back. At that point, you would just let the knees drop. Look in the other direction and then just take a couple of really deep breaths. So totally up to you, whichever you feel like you need. We're going to go 3 more breaths. So if you just work with one side, maybe switch it and have a go on the other side if you're just holding for your breaths. You can even work at spinal breath on that, where you start at the tailbone, you lift it all the way up through the chest towards the back of the neck. Last breath, whichever one you're doing. And then arms up to the ceiling, and we're going to take the opposite knee to the opposite arm, drop down towards the floor. So this is a little bit like your tree pose, isn't it? It's a hip opener. It's not like your glute med clam, and then lift back to center, other side. Opposite arm, opposite leg. And then come back. If you haven't got the space, you could almost just flex in the elbow. I haven't got the space because I've got the wall, so flex in the elbow with the arm instead of opening all the way to the side. If you've got the space, you might want to open. So the challenge here is imprinting the lower back down and then keeping kind of the hips like still. So you're not letting the hips totally like open with this. You're keeping the control. So this is pelvis stability. Pelvic floor in, TVA in. Try not to let the hips tilt or the shoulders tilt. Then we're going to just keep the arms, we'll relax the arms, we'll put our hands on the hips, one leg up to the ceiling, and then just a really nice small circle. Straighten that leg out to the side for a one leg circle. And I've gone hands on hips because I did actually do the one leg circle a few weeks back in the village hall, and everyone's hips were kind of tilting. And I think if you've got your hands there, you can just notice it. So just really, like with your long fingers, just really see if you can keep the pelvis still as you circle that leg. Up to you how big you want to take your circles, what kind of control you've got in there. Pelvic floor in, TVA in, other way around. The other thing to notice is what the other knee is doing, because the other knee often wants to spiral with the leg that's circling. So see if you can keep the other knee super still. Also notice what's happening with your shoulders. Are your shoulders really tense? One more circle. Strengthening all those little muscles in the hips, the pelvis. Then straight to the other side, straighten the legs, a little bit of a hamstring stretch engagement. Then perhaps go to a point with the toes, and then bring in your circles. Hips still, so it's that pelvic stability. Try and breathe in, breathe out for one whole circle, so they're super slow, super controlled. Keep the engagement there with the pelvic floor and that TVA. Try and relax the shoulders. If your chin's lifting up to the ceiling, find that length at the back of the neck. Other way around with your circles. Should be imprinting that lower back down. Last one. Then place the feet on the mat, perhaps bring your heels a little bit closer. You can touch your heels. Knees, feet, hip width apart, feet parallel. And then just take a pelvic tilt. So if you're a little bit tight there in hip flexors or quads, you might feel that on your pelvic tilt. So just going super slow, pressing that lower back down and then lifting it back up into a little bit of an arch. So this is like a massage here for the lower back. If you want to move on and start to lift up the hips and chin goes into the chest. You really get the length at the back of the neck with this one. Lift the arms up and over the head. Option here, straightening one leg's hips super still. So if you can bring the arms back down, arms back over, squeezing that glute there. Try not to let the hips wobble. Same that we've just done. Hips super still. 2 more times, arms down, arms back. Try not to hold the breath. Keep squeezing in that glute strengthening exercise. Arms back down, slowly vertebrae by vertebrae, lower yourself back down. And then again, we're going to go to the other side. So slowly lifting up, get as high as you can, squeeze the glutes, arms over. Get that length there at the back of the neck. Straightening one leg, squeezing glutes. Both glutes there as well. Up and over with the arms. Keep the control, don't rush these arms. I know you want it to end quicker. It doesn't really work like that. 2 more, keep breathing, keep squeezing. Notice there if you've got that pelvic floor engaging too. Last one, arms over the top. Arms coming down, foot coming down. Slowly, vertebrae by vertebrae, bring yourself down. And then just hugging knees into chest. And just start taking a little bit of a circle. Just move myself forwards. A little bit of a circle there, kind of low, mid, back. And we're going to take this into a pendulum. So option here is to sort of tabletop it and then bring in your circles. So thinking a little bit more about core, pelvic floor, TVA. And perhaps go with 3 circles one way and then 3 circles back the other way. So I'm going to start adding some options, some progressions. So you could think about straightening legs and working with these circles here. Now obviously the lower the legs go down, the longer those levers, like the harder it is to imprint the lower back down. Other options, you could bring it up to onto elbows. It's a little bit more, almost like a back plank. And then again, we could go with the bent knee option. And it's a quite a nice lower back release as well as working with core. Again, we're just circling. And then you've got the option there to straighten legs. Again, you're testing the core. And then obviously the last option, you do need a bit of space, is you just have to get your arms straight behind you. Lift your chest, take your shoulders down and back, and then again, you're circling. But obviously this is about lengthening the legs out. Haven't done this one for a while, it's very tricky. You have to get to a quite low down. Again, you can do that with your knees bent. Other way around. Last one. Coming up to a seated position, and from here we'll just take that heart stretch. So press your hands into them at either side of your hips. Lift up the heart, lift up the chest, take the shoulders down and back. And here get length at the back of the neck, so crown of the head up to the ceiling. So your ears are sitting over your shoulders. So we're not looking up here, we're not extending. We're really thinking almost about lengthening spine and lifting heart. 3 deep breaths, and you can think about those 4 corners again of the chest. Really wide into the rib cage. So from here we're going to just go to some little kind of short, like almost like at the beginning, you know, the shoulder circles opening. Come halfway down and then lifting back up. So it's like halfway down with that bubble bar. It's tricky because I've got this wall. So you're circling and then just halfway down, pulling in the core. And then we're going to do like a little halfway down, bow and arrow, and then coming back up. Halfway down, pulling in the core to a bow and arrow, coming back up, then a big circle, halfway down. Flexing the feet, keep the heels down, bow and arrow, then coming back, and then the other side, up, and then all the way down. Now if you choose, you could go all the way down on those points, all the way back up. And then if you choose, you could come all the way forwards if you feel like that's your way of releasing. But then just have another go at the bow and arrow. So just put the bow and arrow in the middle of that. And then all the way down. forwards if it helps you with your release. Last time. Bow and arrows in there if you can. All the way down. Vertebrae by vertebrae. Take a full body stretch. Circle it around. Bring it back up. And forwards. Coming to face this way, legs crossed. So finish with the spine twist, so palms together. Go back into pressing these palms together, shoulders down and back. Breathing, get nice and tall, crown of the head up to the ceiling. Breathing out, just a really nice slow twist, doesn't have to be very far. And then breathing in center. These shoulders, so try not to let the shoulders come in, shoulders back, that's better. Then you can think about lift the elbows, so see if you can get the elbows level, yeah. And then around the other side, breathing out. And centering, you should feel that on those long strands of muscles either side of the spine. Centering, other side. Straightening legs from, we do a porridge style, so straighten the legs, flex the feet. Reaching forwards, breathing in at the center, breathing out as you reach around. Flex those feet. Just juicy hamstring stretching here. And then the other way around. Two more. So bring those feet together, palms together. Namaste.